Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing Carrie, written by Stephen King. This book has just cemented itself as a part of popular culture, and it is the book that launched a massive career that's still going today. So whether you love, like or hate this book, you can't deny that this book is still relevant today. There's people still reading it, new audiences out there finding this book all the time. It's still very relevant, and the themes in this book are still very relevant. I'm not sure how much of this plot I need to outline in this video because the book's been around for decades. There's been multiple adaptations of this book into a movie, so many people out there either know the plot of the book or the movie. They are slightly different, but the main story, the main themes are the same. So in a nutshell, this book is about Carrie, who's a teenage girl going to high school in America. It was written in the 70s, so it's set in that time period. And it's all about Carrie, how she's traumatized. She's being bullied by people. She's like a victim. She's a victim at high school, or ever since she was at school, she's been a victim. And she's a victim at home as well. So her mother bullies her, her mother mistreats her, all the kids at her school do the same, and it seems like nobody cares about her, even teachers. So it talks about all that thing, it talks about bullying, it talks about society just ignoring people at the fringes, it talks about how easy people just push people away at the fringes and just think of them as abnormal, as freaks, and don't want to reach out and get to know them. It talks about all that in this story. And it gets to a point in this book where it all builds up too much, and Carrie just snaps. And Carrie seeks revenge, not just on the school, but on the whole of society, the whole of the town where she lives. That speaks to things that happen today as well. I mean, you've got high school kids out there that are being bullied, or they're being mistreated, or they feel victimized, and then they snap and they do something. Just in this book, in this case, Carrie's weapon of choice is her mind and her power. And of course, there's some big moments in this story. Some big horror moments that are very gripping, but I don't want to go into all those moments in this video. I want to discuss the book in general, things about the book that I think are themes, or things of the book that I think it's telling us, not so much the plot itself. So first I want to talk about the structure of this book. For me, this book is a novella with padding. That's what it feels like to me. And when you read more about this book, how it was written, it actually was that. Stephen King wrote a novella, and then he padded it out with different things. And what he padded it out with is just witness reports, questions, almost interrogations, and then statements from witnesses as well. And then also excerpts from books that witnesses wrote later on about the events that happened with Carrie on that night of the prom. Those things in the book, I understand why they're there. They're there to just show us that even though something terrible's happened, Carrie's done this terrible destructive thing in the town. Nobody seems to understand how it happened or why. That's what it seemed to be when you've got a lot of that questioning going on of witnesses. It just seemed like the questions were leading people to say that Carrie's just a freak, Carrie's evil, Carrie did this bad thing. Nobody's talking about what happened to Carrie. That was interesting in this book. But the thing about this structure, the thing about those different things that aren't the true narrative of the book, they pull me out of the story too often. For me, I would prefer to have them removed and Stephen King just expand on that narrative, that original narrative, to draw us into the story and keep us there, because he does draw us into the story. The story is gripping and engaging. But then every time we have these questions and going on, like interrogations and bits and pieces of somebody else's book they've written about Carrie, it just dragged me out of that narrative and pulled me out too often to enjoy this book fully. There are important themes in this story as well. One theme is about outcasts. Carrie is an outcast. She's pushed to the edges of everything. Doesn't fit in. Nobody wants her to fit in. Everybody calls her a freak, calls her disgusting, calls her ugly. People just push her away and ignore her or mistreat her. That happens at home and at school. And also, people in authority just ignore it as well. People in authority would rather Carrie just go away, keep her at the edges, don't let her get involved in anything. They don't want to get involved in her life to find out what's going on in her life. They don't want to help her. And it just makes you think about society. So society, people at the edges seem to be pushed there and kept there. This book is just exploring that theme because Carrie is really pushed out to the edges, and it's only when something drastic happens that people start to notice her. When they do notice her, though, what do? At the start of the story, they mistreat her. Someone tries to help her, but is it really helping her or just feeling pity for her? What's the real motive around that? Because it doesn't seem like genuine help. It just seems like they're trying to help her, but they feel a bit repulsed as well at the same time. You get that sense from the other characters in this story. This book is also about revenge. That's very blatant in the story. Carrie is pushed to a limit, she snaps, and then she seeks revenge. Not just on the people who are tormenting her, but on the town as well. The whole town, the whole society. That kind of just mirrors what happens in modern times as well. When you've got different teenagers at high school who may feel victimized, may feel bullied all the time, feel on the edges, on the fringes, and they snap and they seek revenge. Just in this book with Carrie, her weapon of choice is her mind. And then we had this question about Carrie. Is she a victim or is she evil? So, first off, her powers seem to be there since birth. She's a victim of that. She didn't choose it. She didn't go out and seek these powers herself. But then, she trains herself to be stronger in those powers. Does that make her evil? She trains herself to be able to inflict more damage on things. So, is she a victim of that or evil? That's a question in this story. Then the other question is about her revenge. She seeks revenge not just on people who are tormenting her, so not on other high school students, but on the whole town, it seems. So does that make her evil? She's killing people, innocent people. Does that make her evil or a victim? She's a victim in the sense she's driven to act. But it's that whole scope of her revenge, how big it is, how many people get injured in the process or killed in the process. Does that make her evil? Does that make her a monster? There are questions in this story, I think, that we're asked to concentrate on. We're asked to answer as well. Because when we're reading this, you can imagine yourself being there. Because people get victimized and bullied in real life. There are people out there with real issues like this in real life. So when they take revenge, when they react, are they being a victim or are they being evil? So I think in this story, there are moments when we empathize, but then there are moments when we recoil as well, especially when that whole horror element starts, when it's that big moment where everything snaps and things start just going off all over the place. We recoil from that because it just seems so extreme. It just seems so extreme compared to what happened. But then do we empathize with that because we have this young girl who's been driven to that? She snapped. She's finally taking control of things, finally showing how strong she is. But then, is she taking it too far? So those two things just play out in this story time and time again. King gave us two very strong characters in this book, Carrie and her mother, Margaret. So first, Carrie. Carrie is told very well in this story. She's a teenage girl in the book, but she's written like a teenage girl. It feels very real, the way she acts, reacts, her thoughts, just her doubts, even her joy sometimes in the story. Because she does have joy in the story. There are moments when she's very happy. All different emotions play out with Carrie in this book, and they all feel real. King wrote it very well in the story. I like the growth in her as well. From that victim side, to having more confidence, and then seeking revenge. It's like three separate stages of the one character, but all stages are told very well. They all feel real. The changes feel organic. They're not forced because they just marry up with things going on externally to the character. So everything in that narrative with Carrie, those changes, especially on that one night in those few hours, all feels so real. So Margaret, Carrie's mother. In some ways, this character feels more like the big horror element in the story instead of what Carrie's doing later on in the book. This character, Margaret, is written so well. She feels insane. She feels like she's so unstable, unhinged. But sometimes she also feels a bit centered, which is very strange because this character shouldn't be centered. Mostly this character is just all over the place, but in a very controlled way, and it feels very real. This character is engaging. Even though she's an awful character to carry, she is engaging. She stands out. And maybe it's because she's just so terrible as a person. She comes across as being so terrible as a human being that makes her so engaging. because it's so shocking. We just think, I can't believe people are like this. And maybe people are in real life. There probably are people like this in real life. And that makes it even more horrifying because it feels like King's drawn from things he may have seen or things he may have known growing up or seen somewhere, and he's put them into one character. So this character, Margaret, is just so engaging because she's so horrifying. I think she's more horrifying in some parts of this book than Carrie is. I did enjoy this book, but I enjoyed the standard narrative. I didn't enjoy all the bits thrown in to, pad it out and make it a longer book. For that, I rate it a 3 out of 5. And even though those two characters, Carrie and her mother Margaret, are written very well, they're great characters, all those bits in the story that aren't standard narrative, they kept pulling me out of the story. So I kept losing atmosphere. I kept being disengaged. So I couldn't really rate this any higher. On my channel, I review many horrors. If you enjoy horror, check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to a video for another book I'm sure you'll enjoy.